David King, the excitement at the table is palpable because it's Port Adelaide time. Tell me, how close is Port to completing the mission?
Well, it depends which way you look at it, Jared. If you want to go glass half empty, you can say they were untouched with injury last year. Their stars played pretty much every week. They had 19 players play 20 games or more. Only played 33 players on that list for the whole season. It's unheard of. That's the sort of run that generally wins you a flag. We've seen that up in Sydney over the last few years, contrary to what the Hawks had to go through. So there are reasons why they were so good, but then their style of play was so good that they could beat anyone in a short burst. And that's probably what leaves you thinking, even though they had a poor finish to the year, losing 7 of their last 12, that they've got assets and they've got this elite young talent that can go the next step.
I think it's been much talked about, Kingy, though, the way they prepare. And Darren Burgess, the fitness guy over there, has built the reputation as he absolutely flogs them during pre-season and in-season as well. So the guys are... that could have been part of the reason for the second half fade out last year. But as the players get older and more experienced, they're going to be able to cope with those loads better, and they're going to be more resilient throughout the course of a year. So they should be able to hold that fitness and not drop off, barring injury, throughout the season. So they'll be a bit more of a season campaigner this year than 2-14.
There is a balance, and the fulcrum's here. And when they're young, which they are, a fairly young midfield team, and they all run these 16 beat tests or the less than 10-minute 3K time trials, and they're young down here. As you talk about their experience, it comes up naturally. They get better at their craft at footy. The 16 beepers come down to 15 and a half, because the more you play league footy, the more I'm bumping into you and you wake up on the Monday and go, oh, that one's a bit sorer this week. The more they get knocked around, that will come down. So their real power and real strength for that team right now is their ability to cover the ground. So I reckon they need to hit within 3 years, because who knows what happens when you don't have 15 blokes who can run on your list who are running 16 beats.
Statistically, they're not in the window, but they're an exciting side that could win one.
Why
Just because they're younger than most premiership sides from a statistical perspective.
But so were Geelong in 2007.
Yeah, it doesn't mean they can't win it. And clearly they're an exciting group. To me, what was exciting most about their year last year was the fact that about round 16 or 17, they went into this massive trough. And it looked like they weren't coming out of it. And yet they had the steely resolve and the belief and the togetherness to actually challenge to almost pinch a grand final spot. That'll hold them in good stead.
And so how close were they to the grand final, Derm, in your mind? Do you think there's an element of false economy here?
I reckon there's a false read in this. They were close. you and I will disagree.
If it had gone 20 more seconds, they would have made it. That's all right.
There's a slight false eye. I think they're grand finalists this year. If you put the gun in my head and say, where are they this year? I reckon they're grand finalists. Last year, Hawthorn played them by three-quarter time and had the win. If you look at the footage, and you only need one person to show the demeanour of the team, Brad Hill got nutmegged in the goal square by a ball when Hawthorn were 30-odd points up, comfortable lead. He got nutmegged. They kicked the goal. He started laughing. Gibson's gone, oh, you're right, mate, yeah. Walk over. And they put the cue in the rack. Port Adelaide capitalised on that. Momentum went that way. And for some reason, Hawthorn couldn't halt the momentum. They almost threw it away. Port almost pinched it. I reckon it was a little bit more of a false read than it was a close win. And they should have just about won it. But that's where I'm going, the false read.
Are you buying what he's selling?
No. He's only watching the third quarter. What about the first quarter? They kicked
They were
3
good.
goals, 9.
There's
in the
3
first
more
quarter.
quarters.
Yeah, but the game should have been over at quarter time.
Yeah, it's
And
never
then
over against Hawthorn.
Well, I disagree. 3 goals, 9 to 2 goals, 3. They are there. They are already at that level, in my opinion. Yes, they're young, but they're so gifted. These stars. You're talking about guys like Hartlett and Ollie Wines, who we've never seen a player like Ollie Wines since Chris Judd come onto the scene and break into the elite bracket of the competition almost immediately.
Boak's become one of the great leaders.
Boak's a great leader and puts his hand up internally when he makes mistakes. He challenges the group in different ways. So I don't think they've got a flaw on that list at the moment.
I love seeing too a guy like Travis Boak, who stayed loyal to Port Adelaide when everyone was saying he was going back to Geelong. He stayed loyal and he's led that club, or helped lead that club back to success, hasn't he? And he's getting the reward for his loyalty. It'd be interesting to see if Patrick Dangerfield follows the same line. But for me, the interesting one, have we ever gone into a season where the expectation is two sides are going to play in a grand final more than this. Like, we all think Hawthorn Port Adelaide's going to be grand final, so we may as well forward fight.
Just like we thought Freo were going to be certainties last year.
Oh, exactly right, but how does Port Adelaide cope with that? They're going to have that expectation. Everyone thinks they're going to be in the grand final. They've got the most talented young list. They're super fit. They almost went in the grand final last year. Can their younger, inexperienced players...
Well, their recruiting has been awesome, and you said I can't see a flaw on their team, in their list. Schultz and Westhoff, I don't see as power dominant. They're not this bloke. They're not power dominant forwards. Schultz is wonderful, the amount of goals he kicks through, wonderful accuracy and forward line craft.
66 goals last year.
Super. Get another 66 out of him because they've got Paddy Ryder now. And Ryder's not the best player in the comp, but as a resting ruckman forward, he's a very good tall option, and he could be the panacea to giving them real aerial dominance up forward.
He's the recruit of the year, providing he doesn't get suspended.
What's your balance between Lobie and Ryder? Lobie is
That's a great question.
Ruckman.
Because Ryder
likes
loves
to play ruck.
He loves ruck. He's a 9 out of 10 ruckman and an 8 out of 10 forward. They need a 9 out of 10 forward. He could become that. Does he really want to become that?
I wouldn't undersell Lobie going into the forward line. We see Hawthorn, they push their rucks are their power forwards. So I think they'll be looking at that model and suggesting to Lobie, you've got to go forward.
Could be wrong in your mind's eye. Have you seen Lobie take a big, powerful mark with the ball coming straight at him?
No, but I don't think he's been down there to do that. What I do see him,
Well,
he's
there's a
kicked
reason
big
why
goals.
that-
He's a great shot at
If
goal.
he was good at that at training, they would have shown you that on the field.
He doesn't like Port.
He doesn't.
I've got him second.
He's
Wow.
I can't wait to hear the teams he's got at 17th because he's got so many
I've got
problems.
Hawthorn first and I've pulled them apart.
Haven't made a
I
positive.
think their only weakness, you said there's no weakness on the list. I think their depth is their weakness. It hasn't been tested yet, but we've mentioned Hawthorn's already. I mean, they've got A-graders outside of the side, but I think Nathan Cracker could prove to be a sensational pick because he is a first-round draft pick and he's got genuine potential as an A-grade talent to come into that side. But more young, Butcher, Calhoun, Redden's good backup in the ruck, but there's not a lot of Hawthorn-like depth. Not many sides have got it, by the way.
Yeah,
I think
we just haven't seen it.
Biggest danger is their first 5 weeks of the year. They've got the toughest draw, probably outside of anyone that first... outside of North Melbourne, sorry. So if they can get through that first 5 weeks, culminating in the showdown in round 5, get through that in healthy shape, they're well and truly on their way to a grand final.
Ken Hinckley's changed the way football's going to be played from last year forward. You know, they're fast and furious method out of that defensive end. They go through the corridor, they take risks, they try and hit that target that's a 9 out of 10 target to hit, a tough one to hit. Number one team in the competition for playing on. Number one for getting it inside 50 more than their opponents, averaging plus 11. So that forward line hasn't
That's
had
where
to
the
be
Ryder
great.
thing comes in. If they beat their team week in, week out going inside 50, the thing I love about Ken's coaching over there too is there is a mantra at that team now, which is the envy of just about every other team, and that is team first.
Yeah.
Absolute, complete team first.
The one wild card, as well as, you know, you talked about Paddy Ryder, the wild card for me is Westhoff playing the Jared Roughhead role, going on ball as a ruck rover, not as a ruckman, and then being able to get forward or get back whenever's required because he's an elite runner. And I don't think we give enough credit for what he does.
And he kicked 29 goals last year too. So he can play both ends. The good thing about Port Adelaide, they've got a lot of goal-kicking options. They had 5 guys, I think, kicked over 20 goals
Talent.
last year. And for me, you talked about Paddy Ryder before. I'd have no problems playing the forward line of Port Adelaide because you're going to have plenty of service. So I reckon Paddy Ryder would be more than happy to play 60, 70% of the time down forward. But
But he had that option at Essendon as well. And he always wanted to be in the ruck.
I tell you what, they were slower than a wet week bringing the ball in. I would have hated playing in the forward line.
So a final question, and just listen to the question carefully if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
From the president through to the newest recruit, who is the single most important person at Port Adelaide in 2015?
Travis Boak. On-field leadership, he sets the standards.
The music director for me. Can he replicate In Excess's Never Tear Us Apart, which got the crowd going before the first bounce?
Well, Ken Hinckley has been that for the mantra he's brought in. Paddy Ryder.
Ken Hinckley for me.
Keep him level-headed.
Ken Hinkley's been a super coach. I like the fact that everybody's trying to copy his mantra, if that's the case. Fast footy's good footy to watch. They've been a fantastic side to have at the top of the track.
They are good to watch, aren't they?
Oh, they're magnificent to watch. And Ken Hinkley, he'll make sure they handle the heat. I'm not sure whether they're guaranteed grand finals. Fremantle were certainties last year. There's a long way to go, but they're going to be exciting to watch.